Welcome everyone to episode 3 of Lightning Talks with Technical Leaders. As you know, we jump into talking with a number of influential people within the technical industry. And today I'm proud to introduce Lior Oren, who is a technology executive with around 20 years of professional experience, working for companies such as Wix, Jimdo, Meta, and most recently LivePerson, which is a conversational AI company. Outside of that, Lior is also a volunteering member of the Mentoring Club, and he also advises a number of startups with technology, leadership, and roadmaps. One other thing about Lior is he's a very passionate dog lover. So not many people will know that, but now you do. And he's also very passionate about history. Also a fellow author who's published a book and produced an exhibition which runs in a number of museums in Germany. So without further ado, Lior, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, thanks, Paul. I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, all good, thank you. As well as you can be in December, I guess, but all good.
Quite snowy here in Hamburg as well.
Okay, no, we had a touch of snow the other day, but we're good for now.
Okay.
Cool. Well, obviously, I haven't really done it much justice, I guess, but it would be great to learn a bit more about your career journey from the start and where you are now, and perhaps if you can give our audience a bit more of a detailed overview of your professional background.
No, thanks. That was great, especially the part with the dogs. I think that could sum up everything. The peak of my career. Yeah, so I'm originally, as you might notice by the name, I'm originally from Israel. I grew up in Tel Aviv. Originally, I taught myself programming. Back then, it was ASP, Active Server Pages. It was just Visual Basic. Because I wanted to build a website for a science fiction author that I really liked, and this is how I began my career in programming. And never learned that in university or something like that. And with time, just started my work as a programmer in several startups. This is what you do in Tel Aviv. You work at startups. Back then, my first one was Meta Cafe. They were before YouTube, but YouTube won. I think that was my first experience really in the industry and working as a programmer. The interesting thing is, after Meta Cafe, it was the 2008 layoffs. After Meta Cafe laid off almost all of the teams, I was among the people. I was immediately hired as my first leadership role, and it was way too soon, my second job in life. And I think it was a very interesting experience of being too early, too soon in leadership position. Was a team lead, a really pivotal point of making every mistake possible as a leader. It stayed with me for years later after I gained some experience. I worked at several companies in Tel Aviv. The last one was Wix. I was a part of the founding team, the founding engineering team that created the first, back then, HTML5, the first website editor. And they had Flash in the beginning, needed to migrate to HTML5, to JavaScript. Amazing experience. Wix today is the biggest website builder in the world. I hope no line of code of mine is still in that editor, but the experience and to be able to be a part of such a project, it's something that influenced me. I learned a lot there. And at a certain point, I decided to move to Germany, to Hamburg. Some personal reasons, and I really wanted to work in the European market. In Israel, we work mostly with the American market. and I really wanted to experience Europe. I moved to Hamburg, worked here. I think fast forward a bit, the first real leadership position that I had here was when a small startup named Local Portal needed someone to support them in creating an in-house engineering department. So really building from scratch. They had an agency that built the product for them, and at a certain point with the investors and the board, they needed to really spin up an internal department. I was hired to do exactly that. I think really the first experience of working with budget, managing managers, creating teams from scratch, being responsible for roadmaps and representing the company in boards and etc. Later worked as head of engineering at Jimdo, and then I joined Meta. At Meta, I was responsible for several teams that we were detecting crimes all over the platforms of Meta, mainly using AI, but not only. Was really great experience working with the site in London, and I kind of continued this AI experience and joined LivePerson, where I'm currently working right now.
Nice. Yeah, appreciate the overview. So I guess, with all of those experiences, that I guess there's a point in there must be some quite pivotal moments for you. What would you say have kind of shaped your journey the most, and from the experiences that you've had so far?
Look, I've seen great success and I've seen great failures, which these things that always shape you to understand, or to think that you can understand what is good and what can work less good. I think really in a personal level, at the first job that I actually had several teams and I was responsible for a bigger operation than just one team or just being an individual contributor. There was a really personal point where I was really stuck in terms of I didn't know what to do with some behaviors of some teams. And at that moment, I felt really stuck. And I felt for the first time how lonely it could be to be a leader, because sometimes you're at a position that you don't really have too many people to share it with, or people that have been there before you. And I asked myself, okay, where was the last time that something worked really great? And I remembered a team that I was working in the past as an engineer. And what I did was to just send a chat to the manager of that team 10 years before, ask him, hey, I hope you remember me. I worked for you. I need advice. And this person immediately reacted. We immediately talked. He helped me a lot. And that was a very important time of my career that I understood how important it is to have a mentor, to have a coach, to have someone to speak with that done it, that was there before you. And it's not only how I practice it on myself now. I always try to make sure that every person that at least I'm responsible for, I'm supporting, have someone to speak to, externally or internally. Yeah, that's one of this event really shaped me. And ever since then, I'm always walking with someone that has more experience than me that can advise me.
Is that what kind of got you inspired to be part of the mentoring club? I guess that's the whole philosophy behind that platform, right?
Yes, I think at a certain point when you go to leadership, you choose a bit between technology and people management, and you understand where you're better at. And I think most of the people that responsible for other people really like the mentorship part, really enjoy supporting other people, and I understood it, how it helped me, and yeah, I'm trying to help others with that.
Yeah, because I guess, a lot of people, for a lot of people, me myself included, you're not formally trained on being a manager or a leader, right? It's just kind of, you're thrown in the deep water sometimes. Like you mentioned before, you said earlier that you were chucked into it too early, probably too early in your opinion. So what were the things that you think that, have now prepared you to be a technical leader? Do you think it comes from those failures and those previous experiences of seeing what works and what doesn't, or is it something else?
It's everything. It's also the path that your career takes you. So sometimes you're given the opportunity, sometimes too early, but sometimes you just find yourself in a place where the place scales, grows, and they need you there. I think people need to know about themselves what's good, and it's always good to just try. I've been talking to many people who are not sure. They're giving the offer to be a team lead, from an engineer to a team lead, and they're not sure if this is what they want to do. And it's a big dilemma also for the company, but you don't know until you don't try. And I think it's okay, and I've seen enough people trying go to leadership, then understanding, no, it's not mine. You need the company to support that, because sometimes it looks like a downgrade, but it shouldn't. It's a very brave decision, and it should be something we should normalize.
Indeed. And like you mentioned before, I mean, you've worked for some interesting companies, obviously a startup, and then obviously recently Meta, which is, for some people the pinnacle, it's one of those companies that's the pinnacle of, their career. So what was that like for you, joining Meta and going from different experience to a company like that?
It was a fascinating experience. You work really with people who are the top of the top. It's a very hard process to get accepted. It's a very it's a daily challenge to work there. I think what you learn in one day there, it's like 3 days in any other place that I learned before. Yeah, it was an amazing experience. Also, the tools that you can use, the support that you have there, technologically wise. On the other side, no technology that you use there is actually implementable in other places, because of all the layers, and Meta are building lots of stuff in-house, and using less and less external technologies. So many times you need to learn the Meta way of doing technology.
Right.
Yeah, but you take a lot of learnings from it.
Did that affect you in looking at the next job? I mean, in terms of coming away from Meta in the layoffs, and then looking for your next opportunity? As you mentioned, it's not really transferable, some of the things, but how did that affect your job search for the next position?
Not necessarily to look for the next position, because you always have this dilemma. Do I want to be a CTO in a startup of 5 people? Do I want to go to the next big tech company? And you can be even a team lead at Meta with a scope more complex and bigger than a CTO in a small startup. So it's really eventually it really depends if you have this connection with the company, with the people you talk to, with the product, with the operation, with what they do. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Of course, everything you learn, everything you're shaped, and Meta shaped me, influence your next challenge.
Indeed. So that brings us to your current company, LivePerson. For those who are not aware, what exactly does the company do, and what you're responsible for over there?
So LivePerson, one of those companies who were there almost before everyone, and they had one of the first chats that you can chat with the website owner on the other side. It was 20-something years ago. You put a small script in your web page. There is a small chat that any visitor can speak to the website owner. Today, it's in operation with call centers all around the world. The customers of LivePerson, they have the call centers all around the world. The biggest enterprises in the world are customers of LivePerson. And they have this like a call center, but a chat center. So you have the human side of people chatting with visitors of the website for sales, for support, and anything. Almost every website we come today, there is a chat. Later, of course, came this stupid bots, these heuristic bots that I think there was a part of history that we called them AI, but what did we know? And of course now we're doing AI in several. There are companies who are AI powered that just going to an API and enrich their product with AI. But also we're doing our own AI. We have lots of data, of years of data to train modules. So the company is doing everything around the web chat, from the machines to humans. Of course, we allow also voice chat and everything around what you need for support and having a call center for your website.
Cool. Okay. So I guess obviously with AI, I mean, it's a very hot topic at the moment, at least over the last 12 months, especially with ChatGPT and the movement that we've seen with the CEO. So talking about technology trends and things like that, I mean, how with the things that come up and the hot things that come and go, how do you kind of leverage those different technology trends in your role as a technical leader?
Not specifically about AI, you always need to balance between what is to call hype-driven development and really adopting what is necessary for you. And coming a bit from the front end world in the beginning of my career, where every day there was a new JavaScript library that came, and it's amazing always to have the engineers which are reading all the blogs and come in the morning with this cool new thing came up and immediately want to put it in production. So you need always to know to balance between the putting new technologies, using them, and actually having a stable product in production. I think it's always good to give space for innovation and for adoption. I really like to use the Tech Radar. I think ThoughtWorks invented it. So the Tech Radar is kind of really standardizing what we use in the company. These are the technologies that we use. So you don't start diverging and creating your own silo solutions, but it always also gives a space for new ideas, new technology to come in. You have a discussion maybe with all the people that are responsible for a certain technology. You agree, okay, let's try this. It makes sense. You try it, you move it a bit in the radar until this technology is accepted or being thrown out. So I really like this tool. It's a really great way to keep standards, but still giving a place for new technologies. I think if we do go into AI, we've seen. So of course there's the adoption of AI internally and using Copilot and really encourage people to use AI as it's okay if you are using ChatGPT sometimes to make your announcement, your global announcement a bit better. It's totally fine. Don't feel embarrassed by that. Some people feel that it's like cheating. No, it's not. It helps you being better at your work. I think externally, lots of companies are jumping now to enrich their product with AI. I've seen several operations also with companies I advise that they're jumping too quick to making their product depending on AI. And, right. Having the experience from Meta, how regulations can stop anything you do and can change completely your roadmap, and what you thought you could use at any time, regulator can, or the development of technology can stop you and completely make you rethink that. You need to be careful not to depend your product too much on AI, on the new technology, especially when it's such a new technology. You don't know what will happen. You don't know if OpenAI or ChatGPT will triple the amount of the payments, and you really need to be careful. And I think this rush towards AI, many companies are not careful there. you should have it kind of switch in your product sometimes to go back.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not the same as the AI kill switch.
The internal AI feature kill switch, maybe, yeah, not the global one. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And obviously you mentioned, you know, with engineers and everything else always coming, you know, potentially with a new technology framework or tool that they want to use. How do you learn to say no? I mean, one of the easiest things in management is to look at, you know, jumping on new things and getting those things into production maybe. But what's it like, you know, having to say no, and how do you approach those types of conversations?
It's tough. I think it has two stages. So I would always ask if it's someone that brings some idea that I'm not sure about or I have no idea about because it's not my technology or my area. I always ask to talk to the team, convince the team, pitch to the team, have some. You don't have to have consensus, but you need to have some consent that people are comfortable and believe in that solution. And once you convinced your team or people who are involved in the project and they say, yeah, let's try this. Yeah, we support it, could lead us to a good place. Then you can start a POC and everything. So it's not exactly saying no. It's asking that person, okay, validate your thoughts with other experts.
Yeah.
And it's tough, and I know that sometimes people are really just against new things, and I know that sometimes people really believe in things, and it's okay, and to also let them do their POC alone if nobody's supported, but it's quite rare. I think the harder part is, and I had several cases where even the team wanted to do something, supported some new technology, supported a solution that I really didn't believe in, and that's tough. You can think that your experience is enough to say this wouldn't work, this would work, but you also need to let people make the decision, and they are closer to technology than you. That's, I think, the toughest. And you need to take it case by case. And usually, if you really don't believe it, let them fail is also okay. If you think that if you're so sure that they will fail, sometimes they will surprise you, and usually they will surprise you that you were wrong. But I think just saying no, that's easy. You need to get some consent, other people you trust to say, yeah, this could work, and let them go with it.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, you have to give them the rope and let them see if it's going to help or not. Okay, I guess that kind of moves me nicely into my next question, which is on kind of leadership and management, and you've obviously been in those types of roles for probably over half of your career now. So what's your typical approach to leadership, and how do you think leadership and management should be approached?
So I think this is something that actually Meta emphasizes a lot, and I really believe in that, is being manager in support. You know, you could be that manager that comes to the one-on-one with your managers with a list of topics you want, and something I think changed in me in the last few years where I come to the room and ask, what do you need? So how can I support you? Because eventually we are there to support others, execute and write code and develop things, and we are there to unblock them. We are there to support. So this term of management is support. I'm really trying also to let my managers and their managers sometimes implement this type of culture. That's super important, and then it leads to some culture of bottom top. Many times, again, we talked about it. Let people bring innovation. Always put some place in the roadmap for innovation. I think it's also developing a culture where it's fun to come to work. I personally have zero tolerance towards toxicness or finger pointing, and people should really enjoy come to work, and it should be a place that encourages innovation. is fun, is very diverse. And when we talk about diversity, it's not only a gender or background, it's also technology and seniors and juniors. And you should give space to all the people in such a place. So I think if you sum this up, it's support the culture of bottom top. Of course, sometimes you need to bring the business in, and sometimes you need to be harsh, and sometimes you just need to put a stop to discussions, and that's okay. But I think you need to gain the trust from the people, and this is by really giving them the space to bottom top, giving them the space to bring innovation, and really supporting them in what they think is the best solution, is the best way to do stuff.
Yeah, so actually making it your job to proactively go over to your members and say, how can I support you, rather than saying, yeah, look, it's an open door policy, come and talk to me anytime. People don't do that, right? I mean, I've said before, I mean, I've managed a few teams before and said, look, if you need anything from me, just come and approach me. But it's surprising how many people don't.
Yeah.
When you do that, and I think you are right. It is your job to take that initiative and go over and say, look, how are things going? How can I support you? What can we do better? Is there anything you need help with?
So I had a manager who did it brilliantly. He just canceled all the one-on-ones, and he said, when you need something, when you had a thought, pick up the phone. I will be available at that day for you, maybe not immediately. So that was one, to encourage people to have this culture of, I want to talk, then I will proactively come to talk, and not wait 1 week or 2 weeks for the one-on-ones. And then we have a list of things which are more important than what I wanted to talk about. Yeah, but you're right. People, especially the more you go up in the hierarchy, they're really more afraid to just start a conversation. That's tough, but again, it's a culture and it's trust, and you need to show people that it's totally fine. It's a hard work. Yeah.
And have there been any experiences that you've had in leadership where you thought, yeah, that was something that I've learned from, or I haven't done that particularly well? Is there been any kind of key takeaways for you that you've kind of reflected on and thought, yeah, I think we could have done that better? Were there any particular points for you?
Almost any. You always need to reflect, and you always figure out that things could have been better. There was, I'm trying to pick the best the best one. I think there was a case where just communication was really bad, and it created some silo solution that was just available in other place in the company, and the team worked for half a year almost, and I think, and it went to production, and then we thought, okay, actually the company has such a solution that we could have shortened things, and it was bad communication. Somehow the right people and were not in the right room at the right time, which I find it always a struggle. By the way, there is no, maybe AI would solve it for us, but there is no, in big companies or a few hundreds of people, you don't have a way to automate. Hey, what you're talking about right now, there was a conversation there about it. And if you think about it, our whole industry, companies are solving the same, dealing with the same problems over and over again. And wouldn't it be amazing if you would work in one company trying to solve some technical problem, and there would be something that tells you, hey, that company already solved that, they had these discussions, maybe you do a round table with them, it's not a business secret or something.
Yeah.
But coming back to that time, it was just really a waste of resources of the company, and it took time later to merge these two solutions. I think that was just bad communication. I think we should have also put some more measurables there and put more milestones and measure what is good. But that's another angle of why this project was a bit of a waste. The product was successful, but the company could have saved so much resources and go to market much sooner.
Right, I see. Okay. And what about, I mean, obviously with people now working remotely a lot of the time, how much has that impacted your leadership style and having to work with either a team that's in-house or fully remote?
I'm a big believer in remote work. We talked about it a bit before. I think the benefits are just bigger. But of course, there is nothing that will compare a bunch of people sitting in a room and brainstorming on the whiteboard. And this is why I think remote work should also, the companies should encourage the teams to meet each other every few months, to have it as a part of the budget. This is important. I think also time zones are really important. Company needs to be careful. I think I started working back then at Jimdo exactly when Corona was the peak, and Jimdo decided to go full remote. It was really a decision of it was quite a quick decision, and with this also opened many questions. Do we hire all across the world? What do we do about time zones? Do we keep teams in the same time zone or not? And it was tough to deal with these questions. We did many mistakes, but it was really the beginning of this whole extremely remote world. I think if there will be one thing that I want people to think about when they think about remote work and remote teams is the difference between remote work and async work. And these things people sometimes mix, and it's completely different show to say we are a remote team. I write something in the chat and I'm waiting for an answer tomorrow morning, maybe, or in few hours. Or when we need to solve something, we go into a meeting room and we immediately solve it as synchronously, immediately. And in a fast execution phase and in a company that wants to do stuff fast and to unblock people, I think async work is not exactly the way, but I think many times people in one company, even in leadership, see it differently and they don't really align on are we doing async or are we doing just remote without async? Do we encourage meetings, not for the sake of meetings, but meetings to unblock things, to unblock projects? Or it's okay that stuff are happening only via chat and via mail and each person when they're ready, they're answering. Yeah, it's a big topic that I personally believe that async can work in a more calm companies that have a bit more time, bigger cycles. But move fast companies cannot allow themselves to be async, to my experience.
Yeah, no, interesting insight for sure. Yeah, I think a lot of people, including myself, are still figuring out what works best, and we're still I think, we are still very much at the early stages of adopting this new work culture. So I guess there's still a few hurdles that we'll go over at some point.
Yeah, some companies are going back to the office, and that's also okay.
Yeah.
Remote work is also very trust-based work. It's really easy to fake it. So you really need to have a company with a trust culture and really professionals that you can really know that when they're available in the working hours and they're doing their job and you don't need them in the office to see them actually on their computer.
Yeah, indeed. So I guess that kind of moves me nicely on to my area of expertise, or hopefully my area of expertise, which is recruitment. So tell me a bit more about your approach to recruitment. And obviously you've mentioned that you've built teams from scratch and also been responsible for managing existing teams. So when it comes to hiring engineers or people for your teams, what's your approach to recruitment and identifying people?
So first, the process, I've seen many processes in at Meta. It was, I think, almost 9 interviews until someone comes in, and only then there is the decision to which team this person will go. So first you accept someone to the company, and only then to the team. And it's amazing. It depends on the company. It doesn't fit every company. But I think the approach of you try to hire people to the company and not for a specific team is super important. So it later it allows you flexibility, reorgs, moving people between teams, having these people some more growth opportunities in other teams. So you always need to think: is this person a fit to the company? Is the stack of technologies this person can bring us is a fit to our landscape of technology? So first about that, if we talked earlier about consensus versus consent, I also seen companies that are saying we don't hire anyone without a consensus. All the interviewers are putting a yes. Again, not every company can allow themselves. There are some companies that are struggling to find really good talents, if it's because of payments, and if it's because of location, if it's because of many other reasons. So sometimes consent is also okay. So this is one approach, but of course, if you can have a consensus, that's always better. Yeah, if talking a bit about external companies or headhunters or agencies, I will call it how you want to call it. Look, I really believe, and it's also in technology, you should focus on what you're good at, and all the rest, buy versus build. All the rest, pay the experts. But if you have the resources, you have the budget, you have the culture to also build an in-house recruiting department, do that. Of course, it's always better to have, it's also as freelancers or external and internal, it's always better to have people kind of as a part of your company who are sharing the mission. But most companies cannot allow themselves and don't have this expertise, and you have companies who are experts, people who are expert exactly in that, in recruiting. So why not using their services? This is what I believe. It's not always easy because, auditing and onboarding new agencies, it's always hard, and you can't really tell. There are so many in the market. But in general, if you cannot become an expert in recruiting, don't try to make half. Pay the experts for what you need.
Yeah, because I guess obviously recruitment is a small percentage of your job, right? I mean, it's probably what 20% of what you do. So yeah, being an expert in it is going to be quite tough, right? If you've got multiple other plates to spin elsewhere.
Also, again, it's like technologies. I've seen companies who are building in-house alerting solutions and logging solutions, which their product is completely different. While you have so many good solutions on the market on it, this is not your expertise. Like, why are you wasting time on it? And you will never be able to build something really good, or most of the time, because that's not your main focus, and it's not your expertise. So pay for the experts.
Cool. And when it comes to the hiring of people, I mean, what do you typically look for in people? What are the kind of key things for you as a leader that would identify whether or not you feel someone is going to be a fantastic addition to the team or not?
The one thing that is the hardest to measure or to give a good overview after interviews, I'm looking for people with certain maturity, looking for people who will be good team players, people who can handle rocking boats and having resiliency, and people who can execute from A to Z, that can get a task, know when to report and finish it, or at least making sure that communication is well, and it's really hard to measure. So it's not about how good are you with the tech stack that we're interviewing you for. It's not how much you can reflect on behavioral events that happen in your past. It's really people who will be professionals, and that's really hard to find. I had a chance to work with amazing, I'm still with amazing professionals, and it's always a bit of a gamble when you hire someone, because it's not something you can measure in interviews. I think that the most important thing as an interview is to be really to get away from your gut feeling, to only report after the interviews in the review your observations, the answers, and not kind of how your general feeling about the candidate. Otherwise, you will only hire people like you.
Right. Okay. So it's a combination then of a few things of, hiring for skill, but also for attitude and the actual person. Yeah, that's so hard to judge. Are there any in particular things that you do within an interview to, kind of identify if someone does have that kind of professionalism or the attitude that you're looking for?
First rule, I think, generally in interviews, when you talk not about technology, is to ask for an example from the past, and not ask what would you do if, or things like that. Really, to ask for an example from the past, because it's easier to see not only how the person reacted, but to see how is the person reacting when they are replaying this now in front of you. And then to really see if that person will give reflection, but without you asking, okay, and what do you think about your reaction there? What do you think about your behavior? What you would have done differently? I'm looking for people who will voluntarily tell me what they would have done differently. So this shows immediately about people who are kind of reflecting, people who are always criticizing themselves, see what they could have done differently, even if it's not their leadership or their fault, if it's a failed project question. So that's mainly talk about, always give example from the past and not some general questions in the air.
Okay. All right. So it's more going into their previous experiences. All right. Brilliant. And if we move on then to maybe talking a bit about the different challenges as a CTO or a director of engineering or a tech leader, what things do you see as being quite upcoming challenges for technical leaders at the moment?
What's not? It's a constant challenge. I think recruiting, so getting the good people, I'm not sure if it got harder, but the world is changing. You know it very well after all the layoffs that happened lately. It's a bit of a different world than what we had 2 years ago, where there was just fight for every person who can code, and now I think it's much harder to find the good people, and you have so many good people out there, so many people who are not sure where they want to go, if they want to continue in the big companies, small companies, they want to do, and it's harder to filter it all. So I think the world of recruiting or of getting good people it's completely changing, and I'm not sure where to. I think also in technology, there are some places that we are a bit stuck, like the front end world. Also, security is we're still dealing with the same problems. While on the other side, you have AI, which is everywhere but nowhere. I think if we dive into AI, there is this in every function that you had in engineering in the past, almost always this function started externally, designers, and even in the past you had front-end and back-end developers or teams, data analysts, and with time, each time we've seen how embedding these functions inside one team is the best solution. So now you could not imagine a team without a designer in it if they're doing front-end also. You cannot imagine a team that doesn't have a data analyst embedded in the team, maybe not full-time, but at least shared. And I think the ML and the whole AI world is still in the data departments, completely separated from the engineering and product departments.
Right.
And that's a struggle I've seen also in Meta, although Meta have embedded ML in the normal teams. But also in other companies currently, that they still see the AI as this external, while it shouldn't. And we've seen that any external function at the end came into the teams. But this AI is still separated into the data, which we are completely not there. We need it in the teams. And that's a struggle currently because we are trying to encourage the adoption of this technology everywhere, but we are still siloing these people out of engineering. Product engineering maybe or normal engineering teams, and that's a big struggle, I think, in the technology world.
Definitely, there's some interesting parts to that. Obviously, you know it far better than what I do, but
it will. If we will talk in 2 years, you will see that ML engineers or AI they will be part of normal teams. I'm sure about it. We are now in the shifting.
I'm gonna make a note of that and come back to you in 2 years now. All right, cool. So I guess to anyone who's listening to this show, you've gone through you know, a number of positions and moved up into leadership types of roles. So what advice, Lior, would you maybe give anyone who's aspiring to becoming a technical leader or a director or maybe even a CTO? What tips of wisdom would you install on them?
I would maybe kind of close the circle on the beginning. Have a coach. Have a mentor, someone to talk to who have been there before you. Have a mind internally or externally from the company or outside to help you develop. Because especially when you go into leadership, it could be sometimes lonely. You could have sometimes events where you have nobody to talk to. You need this. And I learned it very late. And I think that's the biggest tip I can give to generally to people in the industry, but especially if you go into leadership roles.
And where do you go to find that coach? Did you just kind of look at, you know, previous managers, or do you go, is there a specific platform that you, obviously the mentoring club's great, but anyone that might want a more a closer relationship, maybe on a...
So in terms of mentor, you should really find if you have role models from your past or currently, and just ask them. Just ask them to give you an hour in every 2 weeks or something like that. That's a mentor. If you don't have anybody in your mind, okay, go to some platforms like the Mentoring Club, but there are many other platforms that people do it voluntarily, and start, at least begin. Establishing relationship will take time. It might not be the first person that you'll meet, but you will find that person. That's about mentoring. About coaching, which is more a professional thing that you need also most of the time to pay for. It's also a relationship-based topic. You need to ask people, like any professional, like a doctor. You need to ask people if they know, if they can recommend you. Meet one, see if the relationship works, if there is chemistry between you. Yeah, until you find a good one.
Cool. All right. Good places to look for sure. Okay. And how have you found it being a mentor now, you know, and the role reversing?
How did I find my mentor or being?
Being a mentor on the mentoring club. It's
amazing. The feeling of, so I'm learning more than them, and I always tell it to my partner that I come out of these meetings when I earned much more, I learned much more, I see other angles, other approaches to life or to the career of people, and I just get more than them. This is what I feel after these conversations. With the mentoring club, it's more ad hoc, so people come, and usually it's not repeating itself. Most of the people, it's one-timers. But when I had a mentoring relationship along one, it was really tough. As I said at the beginning, nobody taught me to do that, but you develop the good relationship to figure out what the person need over time.
Okay, brilliant. Cool. Well, look, we could talk about work stuff all day, I'm sure, but let's jump into a bit about yourself, or maybe you can tell us something fun about yourself, Lior, that we haven't already discussed. But I guess that might start with either dogs or history.
Yeah. So always when I think about ideas for startups or talking to startups, it's always there was one that tried to create a startup around dogs, and that's always for me okay, I will quit everything and I will go working for you for free. I think the combination of animals and technology, of history and technology, is something that I'm really thinking a lot of. Yeah, a fun fact, I'm doing history tours here in Hamburg in my free time. Also, as you mentioned, wrote a book about it. It's my kind of alter ego part out of work. One day I will find a way to combine those two.
What's the book called?
Sorry?
What's the book called?
Marion's book, it's in German. Not that German is so great. An author wrote it for me. It's a story about the sister of my grandmother here in Hamburg before the war, and she painted beautiful paintings, and it's the story of her and the paintings. Yeah, it's in German. It's available only in Germany. It's called Marion's Buch.
Interesting. And how was it writing a book? I've done it as well. I mean, it took me bloody forever to do it. What was that experience like for you?
So luckily for the reader, it's not a roman, or it's not something I invented for my head. It's lots of facts and details, and I got lots of help also from historians, and so it was more factual writing.
Yeah.
And of course, I wrote it in English, and they translated to German, because even after 11 years, my German is not as good to write a book. I think the amazing thing, so I also go to schools here and I talk to children about the topic, and the amazing thing is to give them the book and they see someone that were their age, and all they hear about history is really those black and white horrible stories, and suddenly they seem very colorful and happy book about this time because she was a girl and she was happy. And that's the amazing thing, to use this book to get teenagers closer to the topic. For me, it's just amazing feeling.
Yeah, super rewarding. Cool. And last question then, how many dogs do you have, and what is your favorite dog?
Well, sadly, only one.
Right.
The deal with my partner is, for every kid that we have, I'll be allowed to adopt 2 more. We have the first kid on the way.
Congratulations.
I'm looking forward to the visit at the shelter. I think it will take time. We're living in a city. One dog is
One dog's enough.
yeah, for now.
Well, it's never enough. Yeah. What breed is he?
Sorry, it's everything. It's the whole European Union. She's a shelter dog. I always adopt dogs from shelters, so
Yeah.
she's a mixed breed with just everything.
Yeah. My dog, sadly, he passed away a few years ago, but he was a mix of everything. No one could actually tell what kind of breed he was, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and they're, I think, a bit smarter, they say. So the mixed breed, but I don't want to insult any other.
Well, they live longer, right?
Yeah.
If it's a pure breed, then unfortunately that shortens their life expectancy somewhat. But yeah, don't want to end on a bad note like that. But
no, dogs are never better. Yeah.
Cool. All right, Leo. Well, look, I think that pretty much wraps up our talk. I really appreciate taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit with us, and hopefully a lot of our listeners have taken some good takeaways from this, and look forward to the next couple of episodes of Lightning Talks with Technical Leaders. Yeah.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. All right. Bye for now.
Bye, Paul.